waiting for some more people. So just kind of saying hello to people as they come on.
Commissioner Blake, I'll make a broader announcement, but typical city change management is not our strength. All of our city email address will now be coming from dallas.gov, not dallascityhall.com. So some of you might have check your spam boxes because maybe your internet thinks that dallas.gov is spam, even though dallascityhall.com looks a lot more like spam. The city is gradually transitioning department by department, and we transitioned over on Thursday and are still working through technology, but we're dallas.gov. So this address. I think I updated my signature, but I have no idea.
Is that going to be true for city council as well?
I believe so. The Dallas City Hall email address will continue to work for at least for a year afterwards, but you may see the actual emails coming from dallas.gov. I don't know when they're transitioning city council. They've been doing it by basically reporting structure. So our ACMs departments that were able to transition last Thursday.
Thank you, Anne Marie. I just sent you an email asking about that.
I was thinking, I was like, how should we let them know? Hopefully they figure it out, but I don't know. And it was also coming from Nikki because we've transitioned.
I lost a bunch of emails from you that all went to spam, and then I finally found them all. Yeah, a bunch. So anyway, I figured it out.
Spam now, but strangely, our inboxes don't think that dallas.gov is a real inbox email.
Yeah. So the next question is, does that replace the at City Hall, or is that City Hall not any good anymore at all? Or do we have
work for a year? There's like a year overlap period, and they'll all go to the same inboxes, but the dallas.gov is what we're using. I don't know about the website. IT is not the best at always communicating to us.
So that's good. We'll just all go back into our address books and change the address.
Well, I'm glad you let us know because I wasn't aware of that.
Well, I wasn't either until I suddenly, was getting, you had sent something to 2 or 3 people and one of them replied to all. And that's when I saw it for the first time. I mean, it was like when you were asking about the change of date for the meeting. I didn't get that until after you'd already changed it to June 1st. So it's okay. It was all right for me, but still. That was
found out on Monday that we were changing on Thursday. So sorry, we didn't communicate. We will work on better communicating, making sure to send out an email to all of our constituents, because I'm sure we have many, and we'll get some cute infographics up too.
Good.
Right.
Well, I'm going to check my junk to make sure I haven't missed any emails.
I missed a bunch.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get started, and we'll just hope the others catch up with us. So we have quite a bit of stuff on the agenda today. But first of all, welcome and give you a quick organizational update. We have not yet scheduled our virtual brown bag lunch for June, but we're working on that probably towards the end of June. And then we do have a virtual general meeting on June 29th at 4 o'clock, and probably have more insights as to where the city budget is going by then, but we will be talking about that today as well. And we have several new members with us. Frederick Tran has just joined, so we're happy to have you, Frederick. And also our member spotlight will be Peter Palladis from the Dallas Center for Photography, and we're very glad to have you with us as well. And so I'd like to turn it over to Peter so that he can tell us more about the Dallas Center for Photography.
Thank you. First of all, really happy to be part of this organization. I was looking over the list of members earlier, and I was like, why didn't we join this a long time ago? So, and we're very happy to be here. It's kind of like we got a couple of small grants from DACAC, and it felt like a little bit of a, sort of a stamp of approval. So this is really exciting. I'm going to apologize ahead of time. As soon as my presentation's over, I've got to jump off. We have a children's charity coming over to do a photography portrait session, a Father's Day portrait session at 5. So we're still setting up lights for that, and it's going to end up being an exhibit as well. So very quickly, my story, I am a photographer. I started shooting in high school. I got into national magazine work. With an emphasis in travel for about 12 years. I shot all over the place, worked for business magazines, newspapers, then got involved in stock photography, about 12 years ago, started teaching some classes on the side, and it turned into a bigger business. And about 3.5 years ago, it kind of occurred to me that since we were already community facing, that the only way to make DCP really grow as a service organization was to convert to a nonprofit. So we are a conversion from a for-profit. Our attorney, who was very good, was also very impressed that our 1023 sailed through the IRS on the first try. So she might have done something right there. So we converted operations in July of 2019, and then along comes the pandemic. You know the story. We are actively getting into grant cycles, which is a new thing for us. We haven't really had the capacity for it. We've been working with a consultant, which is new for us. The board has been restructured a little bit. And I think, like most of you, this is hopefully going to be a year of growth and change. And we are really excited about some of the connections we've been making. So we're working on projects with DISD, with the Dallas Public Libraries, with the cultural centers, the OAC cultural centers. And we're making a concerted effort to connect with the fine arts community. And then we've also got a really exciting speaker series next year. The emphasis, I think, is going to be on women in photography. So we're going to be doing a really nice series on women, United States, local, and I think there's an international photographer that we're looking at. So what I was going to do was share a little 5-minute video. We put together a video. Any of you all who applied for OAC, you know that you had to do a video. We missed that in the application notes until about a week before the application. My degree is actually in television and film, so it was kind of fun to do it, but it was a scramble. So I'm going to play this. I'm just going to narrate over it. This is a very cut down version of the one that we submitted. Let me find the right Zoom window here. Hold on. You have given me share. Yes, here we go. Everybody can see this okay? So a big part of our organization is programming. We teach classes, workshops, all the way from beginner through intermediate into specialty classes. We bring teachers in from different parts of the country. We're emphasizing more and more local projects. And this had been a major source of revenue for us. As I said, now we're starting to pivot more towards grant and foundation money, which we're very excited about. We have a really outstanding darkroom, a 10-station darkroom. We do traditional tintype alternate processes. And it is a wonderful experience for people. This is that's my studio. When we converted for COVID, we did remote teaching. We were able to bring teachers in from parts of the country where we couldn't afford to fly them in. And so we did some collaborative projects with 2 photographers on the East Coast and the West Coast. The gallery is really kind of I hate to say crown jewel, but we're very proud of it. This is our gallery space. It's about 2,000 square feet. We do single artist shows, but it's really geared more towards community shows. And one of the shows that we did at the very beginning was a project called, it was for a group called Friends for Good, and it was called Sacred Spaces. And it was an interdenominational group of 4 different churches that these are them that took pictures with their iPhones of what they considered to be a sacred space. And the results were actually really surprising. Just some really beautiful work from non-photographers. And that's kind of our point, is you don't have to be a photographer. We got some nice media coverage from it. They came down and did a live interview, so that was really satisfying. Also, we got a little bit of social media traffic off of that, which was kind of a nice bump. And the other big part of what we do is speaker events. Our space can be set up to hold about 90 people. This was a gentleman named Nikola Olik, a local photographer. He's Serbian, but he does architectural photography. This was pretty well received, has a really unique eye for photography. And this is the type of work we like to bring, which is new work from local photographers. Twice a year, we have an event called the Swap Meet, which is a big used camera equipment expo kind of. We have 30 vendor tables, and it's become sort of a center for the photographic community in Dallas, especially younger people getting into film photography. And it's really fun to see them come in and get excited about this and walk away with some bargains. This is a project we've done for 2 years with Booker T with their dance and media class, shooting with iPhones. This is all iPhone work. Their project was to take pictures not of what dance looked like to others, but what it feels like to them. We were stunned by the work that they got, and a couple of the students said that these still pictures really helped them with their college applications because it was something that they did not have. There's a major effort we're working on called Roots of Photography. This is what we're working on with DISD. This is bringing middle and high school kids in to learn the history, technology, and hands-on processes of photography to start to give them some visual literacy around when they take a picture with their iPhone, how they're part of the whole arc of the art of photography, and also to start to get them used to really questioning where their pictures come from and why. This is kind of a really personal cause for me because kids get most of their information visually, but they don't really know what they're seeing. And so we hope we can expand this. We're photo partners with Clyde Warren Park. This is our giant kaleidoscope that we take out there 3 or 4 times a year. People come back year after year to take pictures in it. And we also do sunprints, which is a hand-on process where kids get to use objects and put them on top of the paper. And this is some of the work that they do. And again, this is a really nice hands-on experience for them with a process that is very old, but very current. There's a lot of fine artists working in tintypes. And the other big project we've been working on, this is a design I've been working on for a portable gallery system with lighting, because we would really like to take the gallery experience out into the public. So this is a mock-up for Clyde Warren Park, what it would look like at dusk. The lighting is a big part of this. And so we're working, seeking partners to do this with. So the big news around here has been the strategic plan we've been working on with the consultant. We have vision and mission statements and basically established North Texas as a national leader in the art of photography. We have other, I won't say sister organizations, but there are several other nonprofit centers around the country: Houston, Los Angeles, Vermont, Colorado, New York. We've have communication channels with all of them. When we converted to a nonprofit, we were asking everybody everything. And fortunately, they were all very, very helpful. Now it's our turn to kind of pay it forward. There's an organization getting started, I think, in Fort Worth, and they've been asking questions about, like, what's it like to run a nonprofit? I'm trying to talk them out of it, but, you know. So that's who we are. The 2 things I want to say about some of the language that we use, because I think this is important. One is that we believe in the power of photography, and what that means is, you notice it's not the power of the photograph. Photography is not product for us, it is process. And this comes from my own life. And the process is not just for the people who create the images, but the people who appreciate the images, because we have seen people changed by making pictures, and we have seen people changed by viewing pictures. And the thing about the visual literacy that I touched on is it is clear that photography is the language of modern culture. And you could spend all day long, I bet you could look at millions of pictures in one day if you wanted to, and there's some really good stuff in there. And everybody has these amazing little storytelling machines in their pockets. And our goal is to help people understand why the stories are important and help to connect them with an audience and work with youth, especially to give them a sort of a voice, a platform in the gallery to show their work. So that's who we are. If anybody's got any questions, I'm glad to answer.
Well, thank you, Peter. And I do have a question. Where is the center located?
Wow, I'm really bad at promotion. It is also, my exposure has gone through the roof. There we go. We are north of the Design District, near Inwood and Irving Boulevards. And we have 2 galleries that have opened up down the street. Kitchen Dog Theater is our next door neighbor. So we're in an area that's starting to come up a little bit. A lot of the people that are moving to this area came from Dragon Street because the rents have gotten outrageous. So they find themselves in this neighborhood. We'd love to have any of y'all come by. We have a show up actually until tomorrow. And then we have another show going up in 2 weeks, and then another major show going up in July called The Bones of Texas, which is a really interesting project of a couple that travels Texas photographing basically towns that have died and telling the story of how and why.
Well, thank you. Does anyone else have a question for Peter?
Well, thanks for letting us join the party.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Thank
We'll
you.
try to get out to see those shows. Carolyn, go ahead with your question.
Just giving him a round of applause. That was great.
Oh,
okay.
I got a yellow hand. Thank you. Thank you. And some
Thank you.
thumbs. Thanks. And thanks for letting me do the little presentation. I appreciate it.
Sure. Okay, well, moving on, we have a quick update from Benjamin Espino on the director search for OAC. So I'm going to turn it over to Benjamin.
Sorry, y'all. I think you might have gotten called by our assistant city manager. So we might have to circle back on that one if he isn't able to. I'm texting him, but I'm pretty sure he's on the phone with Liz. Oh, there he is.
There he is. Okay.
Sorry, I was on the phone with Liz. I'm sorry, what was the question?
We were moving on to the update on the director search for OAC.
Yes, so there will be a national search. They are actually finalizing the vendor, so I will keep everyone abreast of that. And I'll let everybody know as soon as they have the vendor in place and what the process for that will be. So I'm sure there will be community input, obviously, as we all recall from the last director search. And
Do you have any idea how long it will take for them to select the vendor?
No, the vendor has been selected. It's just a matter of going through the signing a contract. As all of you know who have contracted with the city, how that process can take a little bit. So the vendor was selected as of last Thursday. It's just the contracting process started. But I'll put it on my agenda with Liz on Tuesday, so therefore I can give you all an update on that.
Great. Thank you, Benjamin.
Of course.
So moving on, we're going to have an update on the WRR contract. I think we've all heard by now that KERA was the finalist for the RFP that the city did, and they are still in the procurement process. And so there are going to be things they are not allowed to discuss. Please be aware of that. But I'm going to turn it over to Sylvia Komatsu and Ann Bothwell and Anne Marie Gann.
And I believe, Anne Marie, you're going to head off first.
Thank you all. Am I still muted? Okay, great. Thank you all for joining and for giving a little time over. I think we came, Jennifer Scripps and I might have come in February or January, I can't remember, and briefed you all on the procurement process. We greatly love WRR. It has operated as an enterprise fund of the city, which means that its fees, the revenues collected for services should pay for expenses. Other enterprise funds are our convention center and aviation, and also our beloved sanitation. So WRR's revenues were primarily from ad sales. Many of you are WRR clients, so thank you for buying ads on WRR. It's been a tough business. Radio is really challenging. Then you add on being a classical radio station, and then you add on being a City of Dallas radio station. And one of my favorite stories is it takes 2 city councils for Irving Arts Center to buy $49,000 worth of ad time on WRR, even though it's less than $50,000, because it's technically a contract between 2 government bodies. If you can imagine how long it takes 1 city council to get things through, you add in a second one, and that's just for $49,000 of revenue. So it's been a little bit of a difficult road. Pandemic has worsened things, obviously, with lower ad budgets, arts budgets, both arts and commercial budgets. We were thankful for the Friends. They stepped up their fundraising and supported the station in that time. And you know, always the financial shows on Saturday morning and the religious shows on Sunday mornings continue to support through the pandemic. We have had a challenging time, and last year in March, we told the Quality of Life Arts and Culture Committee of City Council that we were pursuing an RFP process to find a management partner. This is very common in the radio industry. It's called an LMA. It's essentially a lease. We would retain ownership, and in that way we would control the format of the station, and someone else would come in and manage the programming, the sales, take on the financial risk, hopefully, and hopefully make money on it and make it a sustainable operation. That launched in June. It was open for 2 months. We have been working very closely. The Symphony submitted a proposal, as did KERA. KERA was a selected bidder, and we've been negotiating, and they signed a contract as of 2 weeks ago. So we now can discuss it. The next steps are, we are rapidly coming around to just say, what do you think of the proposal? What do you think about the future of WRR? A city council member has asked us to pursue what a sale would look like as an alternative option for WRR. In the event of a sale, there is very little chance it can remain classical. We would not be able to sell it with any kind of covenant or any sort of deed restriction because the FCC does not allow that on radio stations. So I will turn it over to KERA, which is the more fun process. The final next steps will be June 8th. We are taking this contract to City Council for a vote, but they have much more interesting vision and future hopes to share.
Thanks for that summary, Anne Marie, and our thanks to Joanna for providing this opportunity for us to meet with you. Ann Balfa and I plan to be relatively brief because we know you've got a full agenda and we want to leave plenty of time to hear your ideas, your feedback, and your questions. We'd like to start with why KERA believes this is such a good thing for everyone in North Texas, including arts organizations. And as Anne Marie noted, KERA will keep WRR a locally programmed classical station. We probably can't say this enough. The classical format that audiences love and cherish is not going to go away, and it will continue to be accessible to everyone here in North Texas. Second, this will ensure WRR's long-term sustainability. As part of the agreement, WRR will be converted to a non-commercial operation. And what this means is it will open WRR up to new revenue opportunities that simply aren't available to it as a commercial station. And third, KERA has a long-standing commitment to the arts, and together we're looking forward to KERA and WRR deepening our commitments to serving the arts organizations here in North Texas, and doing that on WRR and across all of KERA's multiple channels and platforms. And Anne will be sharing more details about that in just a moment. So overall, management of WRR aligns with KERA's mission and vision. We're here to provide high quality content and services around 3 core areas: news and information, children and families, and arts and culture. This is why we exist. And at the heart of KERA's mission is our commitment to sharing diverse perspectives and celebrating and reflecting the incredibly rich, wonderful cultural diversity we have in our region. And we're also committed to engaging and serving and creating new opportunities for underrepresented communities. And we look forward to extending that commitment to management of WRR as well. So this includes working with our peers at other classical stations, with all of you, and with other arts and community organizations here in North Texas. And the idea is to make sure we can help connect new, younger, and more diverse audiences to the arts and classical music. And with that, I'll hand it over to Anne.
Thanks, Sylvia, and good afternoon. I just have a couple little details to fill in based on what Sylvia was just saying. As Sylvia mentioned, both WRR and KERA have a very long history serving the arts community and supporting the arts in North Texas. And at KERA, I think most of you are familiar with our arts journalism that shows up on Art and Seek, but also on KERA News, in our newscasts, and on kxt.org. There's the Art and Seek calendar with more than 4,000 arts organizations and venues represented on it. And of course, we have KERA Television with all of its programming around the arts, from great performances to Austin city limits. So we're really thinking that together with WRR, this is a tremendous opportunity to just further expand the platforms for arts news, information, and then classical music itself at WRR, but also across KERA's platforms. And as Anne-Marie alluded to, we have a lot of rules that we're following right now during the RFP process. We can't really talk in detail about programming. We haven't even begun to discuss that, and that will happen after the City Council approves and we're able to visit with our colleagues at WRR. But I can share that to Sylvia's point about looking to deepen and broaden content for and centering underserved audiences, there are a number, we will be able to tap into a number of classical music stations right now that are doing very innovative programming that is really inspiring us. And that ranges from efforts in Portland to really diversify the playlist, the radio playlist. They're going so far as to both commission and record work by composers whose work may not be getting airtime. So we're really interested in that. There are programs out there. There's a program called Concierto, which is a classical music program in Spanish, and we're looking at shows like that. And then there are efforts like WCRB in Boston, which is really going at attracting a younger audience, and we're interested in the efforts and the successes that they've had in that area. So lots, and those are just a few examples, lots to dig into after the City Council makes this official. And then I want to give a few more details. As Sylvia said, there's going to be a tremendous opportunity for arts groups as part of this contract. KERA is going to be providing the city with thousands of opportunities for spots on all of our platforms, and that will be administered through the city. So Anne-Marie may want to talk a little bit more about that, but KERA is going to have staff dedicated to helping selected arts groups tailor their messaging so it's impactful across all of the platforms where we're able to share it. So just a few very brief highlights, but we really, as Sylvia said, we're very interested in getting your reactions, your feedback, and answering any questions. And Anne-Marie, I don't know if you wanted to fill in any more about the spots.
Yeah, sure. So few more minutes and then we'll open for questions. So they will, as part of the contract in the first year, we'll have 14 spots on WRR or equivalent KERA platforms per day. in peak day parts from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. And that is over 5,000 spots in that first year. In the subsequent years, it'll be 17 spots per day. So we are proposing to City Council to make sure that a good portion of those goes to arts organizations, with at least 25% of the spots overall going to Alana artists and arts organizations, consistent with the 1987 maybe council resolution that says 25% of WR's profits. And in this case, we're counting spots as the profits go to Alana artists and organizations. So we're trying to honor that commitment and uplift our Alana organizations. The rest of the spots, we'll have to figure out what that allocation process looks like. Many of you know the Moody tier process. Many of you know, there's the LCC tier process. We're good at tier processes. We will get to that and get back to you all with feedback on what you think and how you think we should use this. I do know there probably is also interest from the city in retaining some of these spots. I'm sure mayor, city council offices would love to use it for their events, as would our partners at racial equity and inclusion, or the environmental quality and sustainability. And we could retain some and kind of quote unquote sell it, just like water buys spots on WR today. Water could then buy spots on KERA, WRR, and KXT from OAC and help replenish some of that fund balance with that 25% kind of profit going. So this is a very involved process. We have to get through June 8th. If that is approved, we'll be coming back to you all for your input and thoughts and feedback, and then would go to Quality of Life, Arts and Culture for their thoughts, input, feedback. Like anything else, it's a very involved process where a lot of people have input, and we definitely will come back to you if this contract is approved.
And I think there we can open it up for questions, comments, feedback. Thank you. Yeah, Tamitha, thank you. Mentions in the chat, Sadia Records, and that's a possible model for us to look at. And I was just typing in a thank you, and we'll definitely check that out.
Chris has his hand up. Chris?
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a great opportunity. I do know you're not in a position to commit to what you're going to do other beyond the TV or beyond the spots, the advertising spots. And my understanding is that you also will be providing support to help craft those spots and produce those spots, to keep them of a good quality, but make sure they get done right. But I think, chatting with you earlier today, what really excited me, so I'm going to throw this out but is looking at the best practices at other stations like this, where you're maybe featuring composers of, who have been underrepresented, people of color, and, different kinds of classical music that aren't necessarily in the European form of classical music, things like that. So I see great opportunity there, but also again, with the arts organizations and finding ways to elevate them, maybe through a public affairs, show or something that helps elevate the groups, because we know, and I know you've got a great partnership with Dallas Morning News now. So I don't know if you can talk about that yet, but I would like down the road to hear how this may involve that. But the bottom line is, arts is not getting as much coverage as we would like. So to me, this provides a tremendous opportunity and outlet to help elevate our arts community, especially those who have been historically underrepresented and under-resourced, because we know our community is just growing and it's so diverse. We see it through our elevator project, through the Moody Fund, and there's just so much potential there. So again, I think this is a great thing, and I really encourage you to take these opportunities to elevate our community. Thank you.
Thanks for those comments, Chris. And we could not agree more. There's such an exciting movement going on now in classical music and at stations across the country. So we're definitely looking forward to being a part of that. You know, Anne mentioned a few of the initiatives that are underway, but we'd love to be a station that that is a trailblazer in this as well. So we're looking forward to doing all of that. And yes, we have so many platforms, right? So many different ways we can get the word out. So in addition to over the air and audio, there's of course video right now with KXT, for example. We shoot live performances. We share those on YouTube. Would love to be able to do that with musicians, composers, others that fall within the WRR genre. We have a podcast team as well. So the kind of programming you were talking about, where we can dive more deeply into topics, and if people are interested in that, then that's another avenue for them to learn more. And again, because we are a not-for-profit public service organization, we are excited to collaborate with everyone and anyone, and that includes those in the commercial space. So we are partnering with the Dallas Morning News on expanding and strengthening the arts coverage of both our organizations. So we can have another conversation about that sometime. We'd love to share more. We are also partnering with the Fort Worth Report, which you may be familiar with. It's a new nonprofit digital startup in Fort Worth, and we are sharing our content with them. And arts and culture is also one of the beats where we are collaborating. So there's so much we could be doing in this space, and we look forward to your ideas of what we could be doing.
Frederick Tran has put a question in chat about, it says about diversifying of composers, classical music. Are you lifting up composers who are Dallas-based only, or are you open to composers from anywhere?
And we are open to composers from anywhere and from here, both. So again, what's really great about being part of a network is we will hear about really interesting work and important work being done elsewhere. But as with KXT, our other music station, we are very committed to supporting the local music scene, local artists, composers. And so that is going to be an important part of what we do. Let's see if there's some other questions.
What will be the cost of ads to the organizations? Asks Linda Blaze.
So that might be a city question. Our intent is to, well, one, it's really hard for the city to sell anything to anyone, and I don't want that accounting. So we would want to give them away for free to our arts partners. It's only people like sanitation and water that I want to charge for it. But we'll see. I've been told it's allowed, and it's a city council policy decision how those spots go. But again, we fully intend for these to be free spots for our arts partners.
And I see there is a question about whether jazz will be considered. Again, just because where we are in the RFP process, we have been limited in the kinds of discussions that we can have, not only with the WRR team, but with others. So we want to be very inclusive as we're thinking about all of this concerning programming. So that would be certainly something we're open to talking about and hearing from the community and all of you.
Charles Santos has posted about sending an email or a letter to city council member, letting them know that of your support for this. Kathy Brown has a question.
More of a comment than a question, Joanna.
Okay.
Yeah, my orchestra, the New Texas Symphony, we just performed Florence Price's first symphony on Sunday, along with a brand new imagining of a work by a local composer who also happens to be Belarusian by birth, for a guitar duo and orchestra. And it would be nice to be able to get the word out on that sort of thing in a more affordable way. And all of our concerts are free to attend. So reaching out to underrepresented, well, underserved communities is a big part of our goal.
Kathy, I am so excited to hear about that. I actually had dinner over the weekend with one of the musicians who performs with you, and she was telling me about your performance this weekend. And I'm excited because I don't know if you know, but there is a wonderful, great performances special as part of the Now Here This series, which focuses on Florence Price's work. And so wouldn't it be marvelous that we could, you know, rebroadcast that program, get it out on social media, talk about the concert that you have coming up, and people go into the performance knowing that much more and being able to appreciate what you're doing. So I'm so excited to hear about what you're doing and that it is free and it's accessible to everyone. So we look forward to working with you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments? And if not, I have a quick question. I know you have a really great education team over there at KERA, and I think that's a very important aspect. And I know that currently WRR does not have the resources for that kind of expertise. So if you could just say very quickly a little bit about, you know, will there be a focus on education along with the performances and things like that?
That is definitely another area we're so excited about. You know, just on our television channel alone, we reach 600,000 kids every single week. So it is a great venue to let them know about all the wonderful things going on and their parents. And our educational team has already started looking into what kind of resources are available so that we can start incorporating classical music and other arts into the educational outreach that we're already doing. So there is so much potential there. There's already so many great resources available. So that is something we're very committed to doing as well.
Well, I want to thank Sylvia and Anne Marie for joining us today to talk about this. And I know there's more information to come, but this is a very important development, and we'll keep everyone informed of the process as it goes forward. And I think it's a great opportunity to really grow WRR and the audience for WRR, and great for the community. So thank you all for being with us today.
Thank you, Joanna. Thanks so much.
We appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, Anne Marie Gann was going to give us a little bit of an update on the Arts and Economic Prosperity study we're doing with Americans for the Arts. This is very important. The data that we get from this study helps us, to further our funding goals in terms of city funding and other sources. It helps us understand who's coming to our performances, where they're coming from, why they're coming, and so on. So Anne Marie, if you could talk a little bit about the Arts and Economic Prosperity study, we'd appreciate hearing about it.
Thank you, Joanna, for allowing us some time on this very important initiative. The last time we did this was in 2017. It actually was data from 2015. And this is where we always said Dallas's arts economy is over almost 900 million. I hope we get above $1 billion, though, with the pandemic, it's really hard to say. But I hope we get above $1 billion this time. The other important data point that's really fun from that one is it calculated revenue generated to local government, and that was $45 million of revenue to the city of Dallas, which our general fund budget is about $20 million. So we are a good investment. We need you all to help us prove that again. And so we need to refresh the data. What the process is we'll be doing quarterly audience surveys. The volunteers are coming from North Texas Business Council on the Arts. All you have to do is let BCA, North Texas BCA, Business Council for the Arts, know that you're interested. We send something out probably every quarter and allow their volunteers to come in and do audience intercept surveys. They can be done on QR codes. They don't just have to be, they can be done on phones this year. They aren't just the paper surveys. And this is new. AFTA is really focusing, Americans for the Arts, which runs this periodic study, is focusing on equity. And they really are pushing all partners to have at least 25% of surveys be collected from Alana or BIPOC organizations. And we're specifically working with our partners outside of the Arts District. Arts District is doing its own push. And we really strongly encourage you to participate. This is so, so important. We want the range of sizes. We want people to tell us how much money they're spending on babysitters and snacks and all sorts of things, parking every time they go out to an arts event. And this is really important data. It's a bit of a pain to collect, but we've actually hopefully made it as turnkey as possible, which is fill out the survey. I will find the link to the survey for this quarter. Allow some people to come in and survey your audience if you really want to, which helps with surveys. Donate a few tickets, donate a giveaway to one lucky audience member, and BCA will do the legwork for all of us. We're aiming to collect around 200 surveys this quarter. We don't want 200 at the LCC, as wonderful as that would be. We want 200 from at least 200 from a diverse set of across the ecosystem. So if you're performing in a library black box, that works. If you're performing, if you've got a show at that Goldmark Cultural Center, that works. And so we really appreciate any lift you can give, and feel free to email me about this, and I'll throw my email in here. And we really would just, I'll also put in the link to the survey that we sent out. Anything is wonderful. So we love your support and participation in this, which will help us all in the next 5 years advocate for more city support for the arts. I can't advocate as a city employee, but you all can. The info gathering timeline so that they can buy tickets far out enough. So we're doing this for the next year. It started in May and June is the first quarter. Then we'll break for July. Usually there's not a lot in July. It'll start up again in August. So those will be different surveys every time, so that we can have the time dimension. I think BCA is ready and willing to run with whatever time dimension you want to provide it to. We got a little bit
If
late
we
notice.
target shows like in September, they can give those away during the summer or something.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let me put the link in. I've got to find it, and then I'll put the link in after I take any questions, if there's questions about this.
Does anyone have a question? And we'll be sending information out regularly on this to make sure we're getting participation. And so if you do have any questions, please let me know or let Anne Marie know. But this is very important. We get wonderful data from this. And as you know, data is king right now. So it helps us greatly in our advocacy efforts, but it goes far beyond that. So, so moving on, we wanted to quickly look at the City of Dallas budget outlook. There is a budget survey going on. It is online. It takes literally just about 2 or 3 minutes. And I sent something out a couple of times already on this. I think it's been out in our newsletters, and we'll send it again, but that's very important information. It helps city staff understand where the citizens are in terms of their priorities. And, so we want to make sure arts and culture gets represented in that survey. So we're going to keep asking you to take that survey and get your board members, your staff members, your volunteers, your patrons, your family, everybody you know, to do the survey so that arts and culture really do get some prominence. So I'm going to ask Benjamin if he can give us a quick update on, or Anne Marie, on where the budget process is for City Council. And it's my understanding that it's actually looking pretty good at the moment, but we'd really like to hear a little bit more about it. So either Benjamin or Anne Marie.
Benjamin had to hop off. He's playing double duty for a racial equity plan, city racial equity plan meeting at OC3 in just a few minutes. So we are pretty optimistic about budget this year. Obviously, our hot percentage is going to keep increasing. Thank you all for your advocacy. So cultural tourism and tourism are recovering very well, and our percentage of what we get from hot is going up. I believe we're at 7.5% next year. So we anticipate a very healthy budget. We're hoping that means no cuts to general fund, that it stays steady and maybe a slight increase. And as far as revenues this current year, sales taxes have been gangbusters. I'm sure if many of you may have received your property tax valuations, those roles are coming to the city right in middle of July. The city manager will make his decisions on what items to recommend for the city budget, which will come out August 7th, I want to say, and then we go straight into budget town halls on August 11th for 2 weeks. So it's fast and furious for staff over the summer as more information comes in, as we get asked to adjust things. And that is, we will share what we can when we can, but everyone asks me, how much money is there going to be for COP next year or Arts Activate? And I wish I could tell you I would make much more money on the stock market if I could tell you that.
And Hannah has put a link to the budget survey in the chat, and they'll ask you to prioritize which city departments or areas of the city you are most important to you. So of course, put arts and culture or quality of life there. It's also going to require you to select 3 departments or 3 areas that you would consider least important. And that's the hard question because they're all important. So be real careful as you're thinking about that. But you know, I do urge you to please go and take that survey if you haven't done so already. And so the last thing on the agenda is the City of Dallas Bond Program. And there's really not a lot to talk about here. This is more just to make sure you're aware that there is going to be a bond program coming up probably in the next year. And arts and culture really didn't get very much in the last one. And as we all know, there are millions and millions of dollars of deferred maintenance on every single one of the buildings that are owned by the City of Dallas that serve the arts and culture community. And so we're going to probably need to do a lot of advocacy around that process to make sure that arts do get a bigger spot in the bond program this year. So I will more to come on that, but I just wanted to make sure it was on the radar. One of the things the city is going to be doing if you are involved in managing one of the cultural facilities is to understand what you need and what the cost is for that. So if you haven't already provided that information to Benjamin and Anne Marie, please start gathering that because that's very important information. If we don't know what we need, we will not be included if we do not have some hard figures there. So I really just wanted to get it on the radar, and there's more to come on that. So does anyone have any questions or comments regarding anything we've talked about today or anything coming up? Not seeing any. So, well, given that, we are thrilled to have everyone here with us. Peter had to leave us, but it was great to hear about the Center for Photography and have them as a new member. Sylvia and Anne, pardon me?
Sorry, may I ask a quick question?
Sure.
This is my first time here.
Sure.
And I'm still learning. So this might sound naive, and I'm willing to admit I might not know how things work. Or I might have missed a news report or something, but I'm trying to stay in the know, but I'm also a teacher at the end of the year. So and I remember, or I feel like I remember Jennifer Scripps talking about the hotel tax that is people have been talking about, and the possibility of how everyone decided or began to understand how important arts and culture was to the community and also to revenue, like you were saying, the amount of money that arts and culture brings in. And I was wondering, when you talk about bond money, is that if we were, I feel like I remember her saying that the hotel hospitality community, or whatever they're called, the industry, was going to be sharing some of that hotel tax money. And I didn't know if that was included in bond money, or if that was something separate, or if that was just them feeling all warm and fuzzy during the pandemic and now that's over, or that kind of thing. I just wanted to ask that question.
They are completely separate. The hot money, the hotel motel tax, comes from a tax on hotel rooms and has very precise uses designated by the state, not by the city. One of those uses is that a small portion of it can be used to support arts and culture, but again, in very prescribed ways. Things that contribute to tourism are the things that can be funded with hotel motel tax. Bond money is money that comes from the city selling bonds, where the money comes from the bond holders and then the city repays that with interest over time. Those funds can only be used for infrastructure, facilities, major improvements and things of that nature. Those kinds of funds cannot be used for programming, education, and so on. Hot money can't be either. And then the other money that comes to the arts is coming through the general fund, and that is the sales tax money and the money that is brought in from property taxes. And there's a few other sources, smaller sources of revenue that contribute to general fund. The general fund money is what's used to pay for the police department, for running the city, for everything the city does, maintaining our streets, et cetera. And a very, very tiny portion of it comes to arts, to the Office of Arts and Culture. That is actually the smallest department the city has in terms of the funding level. Of course, we think it's the most important one, but that money is taxpayer money that the city council designates for a variety of uses. It supports parks, it supports libraries, and so much more. So, but they all have they're all siloed, they're very prescribed uses for each kind of funding, but they're all very important to the arts community. And so we advocate for all of those things, obviously, to make sure that those continue to be supportive of arts and culture. But I hope that answers your question.
Tamitha, it's a good question because it can get confusing. Because you've heard us with the convention center. There's that out there, which has some, opportunities for arts. But one thing that did happen during COVID, we had been several years ago after the cultural plan was done, one of the things is about sustainable ecosystems, economic models for the arts. And one of the things that we decided was that to help us achieve things like equity and diversity, those were the top priorities in the cultural plan. But then what? Do we sit and fight over the same piece of pie now? Or let's figure out a way to make the pie bigger. And that's what we did. We started a very concerted effort to grow the portion of the hotel occupancy tax that went to the arts from 2.5, and we were successful. So now we're going to 12.5 in a few years. And again, this is coming out of Visit Dallas's that's where it was coming from, but we're growing that portion of that money. And we can get a maximum of 15%. So we're hoping in the next Visit Dallas contract, and they've been very supportive. The new leadership there has been very supportive, that we'll get to that at the same time, protecting the general fund portion. So we're not switching. We're trying to grow the amount of funding going to the arts. And so far, our council has been really supportive of it. The only challenge was a lot of this happened during COVID. So we weren't seeing the growth in the hotel occupancy tax, right? Because it just wasn't coming in, but it's starting to do that. And every year it gets a little bit bigger and we'll hit that 12.5%. And like I said, our goal is to get it up to the full 15% in the next round, which is probably about 3 years.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for that explanation. I just, when she said, deferred maintenance, I felt like by making sure that our facilities are beautiful and that, the crack at the Meyerson was fixed and that, Fair Park is maybe returned to its majestic quality, that would actually, cultivate tourism. So I was like, oh, right. Okay. So I see the connection there. Thank you.
The bond money too, it's important to understand the bond money can only be used on city facilities.
It can only be used on
city facility. It can't be used for somebody, another, somebody else owns a building. You can't use bond money for that. It's got to be, it's taxpayer money. It's going into taxpayer facilities to keep those up. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
And I would say also that it's because of the advocacy of the people that are involved in the Dallas Area Cultural Advocacy Coalition that we've been able to grow funding for the arts, because there were years, going back, to the 2008, 2009, when the budgets were shrinking very, very quickly. And arts funding was always the first thing on the block. It's the first thing to get cut and the last thing to get restored. So we have fought very hard to get back the funding and increase the funding from the general fund, but also to add, as Chris said, to make that pie bigger with the hot money. And then also to make sure that the arts facilities are included in the bond programs. We advocate for a lot of things. So things like making sure WRR is a healthy classical station and that it doesn't get sold. That's something very important to us. You know, so, and there are many issues that, you know, affect artists and arts groups. So that's what you all do by being part of this organization. So we're very glad to have you, and you know, always ask a question if you don't understand something. Does anybody else have a question? If not, I'll let everybody go and have a lovely evening. Thanks so much.